Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Lion of God channel. Imagine standing in a crowded room, voices echoing all around you, laughter bouncing off the walls, and then, amidst the noise, your eyes lock with theirs. A stranger who doesn't feel like a stranger at all. Your heart pounds in your chest. Time seems to freeze. In that single moment, everything changes. You feel as though you've been struck by lightning, a jolt of recognition, a surge of energy, a knowing that goes far beyond words. You want to speak. You want to say something, anything, but the words refuse to come. They're caught in your throat, tangled up with the intensity of the moment. You feel exposed, vulnerable, seen, and yet you say nothing. They feel it too. You can see it in their eyes. The same recognition, the same shock, the same overwhelming flood of emotions. But they too are silent, frozen, unable to speak. Why? Why can't twin flames communicate properly when they first meet? Why is it that two souls who are so deeply connected, so inexplicably drawn to one another, suddenly become tongue-tied, paralyzed, unable to express what they're feeling? Take a deep breath, beautiful souls. Ground yourself in this moment. Because as we journey into the depths of this mystery, we are not just exploring the silence between twin flames. We are uncovering the deeper truths, the hidden fears, the soul-level wounds that lie beneath the surface. Why the intensity overwhelms the soul. The twin flame connection is not an ordinary bond. It is the merging of two souls who share the same energetic blueprint, two halves of the same whole. And when these two souls come together, the intensity of that connection can be all-consuming. It's not just meeting someone you love, it's meeting yourself. It's not just looking into their eyes, it's looking into the mirror of your own soul. It's not just feeling attraction, it's feeling a soul-level pull that transcends time, space, and logic. For most of us, the human experience is defined by masks, walls, and defenses. We learn to guard our hearts, to hide our true selves, to protect ourselves from pain and vulnerability. But when the twin flame enters, all those defenses crumble. The soul recognizes the connection instantly, but the ego panics. The heart opens, but the mind resists. The emotions surge, but the words get lost. In that moment, the twin flame connection acts as a shock to the system, a jolt of soul recognition that is too intense to process all at once. It's as if the soul has been asleep for lifetimes, and in one single moment, it is jolted awake, forced to remember everything it has tried to forget. The runner's perspective, why they freeze up. For the runner, the intensity of the connection can feel like being struck by lightning, a surge of energy so powerful, so overwhelming, that it shatters every illusion, every defense, every carefully constructed wall. Imagine being someone who has spent years hiding their emotions, guarding their heart, keeping people at a safe distance. And then suddenly, you meet someone who sees right through you. Someone who sees beyond the mask, beyond the walls, beyond the defenses. It's terrifying. It's disorienting. It's too much, too fast, too intense. For the runner, the intensity feels like an invasion, a stripping away of all the layers they have used to protect themselves. And in that moment, they freeze. They can't speak. They can't look you in the eye. They can't articulate what they feel, because they themselves don't even understand what they're feeling. Their mind goes into self-preservation mode, desperately trying to regain control, to regain a sense of emotional stability. And the easiest way to do that is to shut down, to retreat, to go silent. The chaser's perspective, why they feel misunderstood. For the chaser, The intensity is equally overwhelming, but in a different way. Imagine being someone who has spent lifetimes searching for a soul connection, someone who has always felt like something was missing, like a part of them was lost. And then finally, you find them, the one who feels like home, the one who mirrors your very soul. You want to express everything you feel, the love, the recognition, the longing, the soul-level pull. But when you open your mouth to speak, the words get tangled, jumbled, lost. Why? Because the intensity is too much. It's like trying to capture a tidal wave in a single glass of water. The emotions are so vast, so overwhelming, so profound that they cannot be contained in mere words. How do you express a love that transcends lifetimes? How do you articulate a connection that defies logic, reason, and earthly understanding? How do you speak to someone who is not just a person, but a mirror, a reflection, a part of your own soul? For the chaser, the fear is not just about being vulnerable, it's about being misunderstood. The fear that the runner will not understand, will not feel the same, will not respond in kind. And so, the words get stuck. The communication breaks down. The silence takes over. The physical symptoms of intensity. Overload. For both the runner and chaser, the intensity overload can also manifest as physical symptoms, signs that the soul is processing far more energy than the body can handle all at once. These symptoms may include heart palpitations. The heart races, pounds, or skips a beat, a sign that the heart chakra is opening, expanding, awakening. Shortness of breath. The chest feels tight, as though the emotions are too intense to contain. Headaches or migraines. The crown chakra is bombarded with new spiritual downloads, creating pressure and tension in the head. Nausea or dizziness. The solar plexus is purging old emotional debris, creating a sense of discomfort or imbalance. Insomnia or restlessness. The mind replays the encounter over and over, trying to make sense of the inexplicable, the unexplainable, the profound. These physical symptoms are not signs of illness. They are signs of a soul awakening. They are the body's way of processing the intensity, of purging old energy, of recalibrating to the higher frequency of the twin flame connection. Here's the paradox. The reason twin flames cannot communicate properly when they first meet is not because they feel nothing, it's because they feel everything. They feel the love, the longing, the recognition, but also the fear, the doubt, the confusion. They feel the soul-level pull, but also the ego-level resistance. They feel the intensity of lifetimes colliding, old wounds resurfacing, karmic cycles reawakening, all at once. For the runner, the intensity feels like too much, too soon. A tidal wave of emotions they are not ready to face. And so, they shut down, go silent, pull away. For the chaser, the intensity feels like a long-awaited reunion, a moment of soul recognition that they cannot bear to lose. And so, they try to reach out, to connect, to express what they feel, only to find the words slipping away, lost in the overwhelming flood of emotion. But beneath the silence, beneath the withdrawal, beneath the tangled words and missed connections, the soul still knows. The connection still pulses, the love still flows, and the journey is just beginning. Why the fear of being seen is so intense. In the twin flame connection, the other person is not just another human being. They are a mirror that reflects back your deepest truths, your unhealed wounds, your hidden shadows. When you look into their eyes, you see yourself. When they look into your eyes, They see you, the real you, the unfiltered you, the soul behind the mask. For most of us, we have spent lifetimes building walls, creating masks, hiding our true selves to protect ourselves from pain, rejection, and abandonment. We learn to guard our hearts, to keep people at a safe distance, to never let anyone get too close. But when the twin flame enters, all those walls come crumbling down. The connection is too powerful, too intense, too undeniable. The soul is exposed, raw, vulnerable, unmasked, and for the runner, that level of exposure can feel like standing naked in the middle of a crowded room, exposed, defenseless, seen. The runner's perspective, why they retreat when seen. For the runner, the fear of being seen is not just about vulnerability, it is about control. Imagine being someone who has spent years hiding their true self, pretending to be someone they're not, suppressing their emotions, denying their feelings, and then, suddenly, they meet someone who sees right through the facade, someone who sees them at a soul level, who knows their truth without them saying a word. It's terrifying. It feels like being stripped bare, laid open, exposed. And for someone who has spent years protecting themselves behind walls of emotional armor, the urge to run becomes overwhelming. They fear being judged for their wounds, their insecurities, their flaws. They fear that if you see who they truly are, you will reject them, abandon them, walk away. They fear that being seen means being vulnerable, and being vulnerable means being powerless. And so they retreat, they withdraw, they go silent. Not because they don't feel the connection, but because they feel it too deeply, because being seen feels like losing control, and losing control feels like losing themselves. The chaser's perspective, why they struggle to be seen. For the chaser, the fear of being seen is equally intense, but it manifests in a different way. Imagine being someone who has spent years feeling unseen, unworthy, unchosen. Someone who has been searching for a connection that goes beyond the surface, that touches the soul. And then they meet their twin flame, the one who finally sees them, who finally recognizes them, who finally feels them. But in that moment of recognition, the chaser is faced with a paradox. They want to be seen, but they also fear being seen too deeply. They want to express their love, but they also fear that their love will not be reciprocated. They want to share their truth, but they also fear that their truth will be too intense, too raw, too overwhelming. For the chaser, the fear of being seen is a fear of being too much, too emotional, too intense, too needy, too vulnerable. And so, they hesitate, they hold back, they struggle to articulate what they feel, not because they don't feel it, but because they fear that expressing it will push the runner away. The psychological impact of being seen. For both the runner and chaser, the experience of being seen by their twin flame can trigger intense emotional and psychological responses, anxiety and panic. The runner may feel a surge of panic, a fight-or-flight response triggered by the feeling of being exposed. Their heart races, their chest tightens, and their mind screams, "Run! Protect yourself!" Emotional flooding. The chaser may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of their own emotions. Emotions they have never allowed themselves to feel, let alone express. The fear of being rejected for those emotions creates a cycle of suppression, self-doubt, and inner turmoil. Dissociation and numbness. Both the runner and chaser may experience moments of numbness, a psychological defense mechanism that allows them to detach from the intensity of the connection. They may feel emotionally frozen, unable to express what they feel, unable to articulate what they need. Self-sabotage. The runner may push the chaser away, reject their love, or say things they don't mean, all in an attempt to regain control over their own vulnerability. The chaser may minimize their feelings, pretend they don't care, or withdraw into silence, all in an attempt to avoid being seen as too much. How the fear of being seen blocks communication. The fear of being seen creates a wall that blocks authentic communication, a wall that keeps both twins trapped in silence, avoidance, and emotional suppression. The runner doesn't communicate because they fear that speaking their truth will expose their wounds, their fears, their vulnerability. The chaser doesn't communicate because they fear that expressing their love will come across as too intense, too needy, too much. And so, the words get lost. The communication breaks down. The silence takes over. But beneath that silence, the soul is still calling, still longing, still aching, still craving the connection it knows is real. The ultimate truth, the power of being seen. Beautiful souls. The fear of being seen is not just a fear of being exposed. It is a fear of being truly, deeply, profoundly known. Because when you are truly seen, you cannot hide, you cannot pretend, you cannot run from the truth of who you are. And for both the runner and chaser, that level of exposure can feel like standing naked in a storm, raw, vulnerable, and utterly defenseless. But here's the truth. Being seen is not a curse. It is a gift. It is a gateway to authentic connection, to soul-level union, to divine love. And when twin flames can find the courage to be seen, to drop the mask, to lower the walls, to speak the truth of their soul, the communication that once felt impossible becomes a channel for healing, for connection, for reunion. Why the emotional intensity is so overwhelming. In the twin flame connection, emotions are not just feelings. They are frequencies. They are energetic vibrations that ripple through the soul, stirring up everything that has been buried, denied, or suppressed. The love is not just a fleeting emotion. It is a soul-level pull that transcends time, space, and lifetimes. The longing is not just a desire. It is a yearning to reunite with the other half of your soul. The fear is not just a surface-level anxiety. It is the terror of facing your own reflection, your own wounds, your own shadows. For most of us, we are accustomed to superficial connections that touch the surface but never reach the depths. But the twin flame connection is the opposite. It bypasses the surface and plunges straight into the soul, exposing every unhealed wound, every unspoken truth, every unresolved karmic tie. For the runner, that depth is terrifying. It feels like drowning in a sea of emotions that they have no control over, no defenses against, no way to escape. And for the chaser, that depth can feel overwhelming. A flood of love, longing, and intensity that they don't know how to contain, express, or articulate. The runner's perspective. Why they fear the intensity. For the runner, the emotional intensity of the twin flame connection can feel like standing too close to the sun. The heat is blinding, scorching, all-consuming. Imagine being someone who has spent years numbing their emotions, suppressing their feelings, pretending that they don't care. And then suddenly, they meet someone who awakens everything. The love they thought they had buried, the pain they thought they had forgotten, the soul they thought they had lost. For the runner, the intensity is not just about love, it is about loss of control. They fear being consumed by the connection, as if the depth of their feelings could swallow them whole, leaving nothing behind. They fear being seen for who they truly are, because that level of exposure feels like emotional annihilation. They fear feeling too much, too fast, because feeling means being vulnerable, and being vulnerable means being powerless. And so, they run, they pull away, they go silent. Not because they don't feel the connection, but because they feel it too intensely. Because the emotions are so raw, so overwhelming, so uncontainable, that the only way they know how to cope is to shut down, to numb out, to disconnect. The chaser's perspective, why they fear the intensity. For the chaser, the emotional intensity is equally profound, but in a different way. Imagine being someone who has spent lifetimes searching for a love that transcends the ordinary, a love that touches the soul, that awakens the heart, that brings them home. And then finally, they find it, the one they have been searching for, the one who mirrors their soul, the one who feels like destiny. But in that moment of recognition, the intensity hits like a tidal wave. The love they feel is so vast, so profound, so consuming that it threatens to overtake them, to drown them in a sea of emotions they cannot contain, cannot express, cannot control. For the chaser, the fear of the intensity is a fear of losing themselves. They fear that their love will be too much, too intense, too overwhelming, and that their twin will run away. They fear that expressing the depth of their feelings will scare the runner off, that the intensity will be too much for them to handle. They fear that opening their heart fully will leave them vulnerable to rejection, abandonment, or heartbreak. And so, they struggle to articulate what they feel. The words get tangled, the emotions get suppressed, the communication breaks down. Not because they don't want to connect, but because the depth of what they feel is too vast, too intense, too profound to fit into mere words. The physical symptoms of emotional intensity. The emotional intensity of the twin flame connection is not just mental, it is visceral, physical, and deeply embodied. When the intensity becomes too overwhelming, it can manifest as physical symptoms, including heart palpitations. The heart chakra is opening, expanding, awakening, and the surge of energy can feel like a pounding, racing, or fluttering heart. Sweating or shaking. The body responds to the intensity as if it were a life or death situation. The fight or flight response kicks in, releasing adrenaline and causing physical tremors. Difficulty breathing. The intensity of the connection can feel suffocating, as though the air is too thick, the emotions too heavy, the feelings too intense to bear. Emotional flooding. The emotions surge like a tidal wave, a flood of love, fear, anger, grief, and longing that all hit at once, leaving both the runner and chaser feeling emotionally unanchored. Why emotional intensity blocks? Communication. The fear of emotional intensity creates a wall, a barrier that prevents open, honest communication. The runner doesn't speak because they fear being consumed by their own emotions, as though expressing what they feel will open the floodgates and drown them. The chaser doesn't speak because they fear being too intense, as though their love will overwhelm, scare off, or push the runner away. And so, both twins remain trapped in silence, each feeling the intensity of the connection, but neither able to express it, each longing to speak, to connect, to bridge the gap, but both feeling as though the words are too heavy, too intense, too much to bear. Here's the paradox. The reason twin flames cannot communicate properly is not because they feel nothing. It's because they feel everything. The runner is overwhelmed by the intensity of their own feelings they have spent lifetimes suppressing, denying, or burying. The chaser is overwhelmed by the intensity of the love they feel, a love so vast, so profound, so consuming that it feels as though it could swallow them whole. And in that intensity, the words get lost, the communication breaks down, the silence takes over. But beneath that silence, the soul is still calling. The connection is still alive. The love is still flowing, deeper than words, deeper than fear, deeper than the intensity that both twins are too afraid to face. Why is the fear of rejection and abandonment so intense? In the twin flame connection, the other person is not just a lover. They are a mirror. They reflect back everything that is unresolved, unhealed, unacknowledged. And for many, the core wounds that are triggered in the twin flame connection are the wounds of rejection and abandonment. The runner feels the fear of being rejected for who they truly are. They fear that if they open up, reveal their heart, express their truth, they will be judged, criticized, or abandoned. The chaser feels the fear of being abandoned by the one they love. They fear that if they express too much, love too deeply, open up too vulnerably, the runner will leave, disappear, vanish without a trace. These fears are not new. They are old, ancient, deeply embedded in the subconscious. They stem from childhood experiences, past life traumas, karmic cycles, moments when love was given and then taken away, when connection was established and then severed. For both the runner and chaser, meeting their twin flame is like being transported back to those moments. The moments when love felt unsafe, when vulnerability led to pain, when opening the heart resulted in heartbreak. And in those moments, the inner child cries out, "Please don't leave me. Please don't reject me. Please don't walk away." The runner's perspective, why they fear rejection. For the runner, the fear of rejection is not just about being judged or criticized, it is about being seen and then left behind. Imagine being someone who has spent years hiding their true self, pretending to be someone they're not, suppressing their emotions, denying their truth. And then they meet their twin flame, someone who sees through every mask, every wall, every facade, someone who sees their wounds, their fears, their darkness. For the runner, the fear of rejection is the fear that once their twin flame sees the real them, the parts they have kept hidden, the parts they are ashamed of, they will be judged, criticized, or abandoned. They fear that if they open up, they will be seen as weak, broken, or unworthy of love. They fear that if they express their emotions, they will be labeled as too sensitive, too intense, too much to handle. They fear that if they reveal the depths of their love, their twin will run away, just like everyone else has. And so, they retreat. They go silent. They withhold their truth, not because they don't feel the connection, but because they fear that if they reveal the depth of their feelings, they will be rejected and abandoned once again. The chaser's perspective, why they fear abandonment. For the chaser, the fear of abandonment is not just about losing their twin flame, it is about losing themselves. Imagine being someone who has spent years searching for a connection that makes them feel whole, seen, understood. Someone who has felt a void, a longing, a sense of something missing. And then they meet their twin flame, the one who finally fills that void, who finally makes them feel complete, who finally awakens their soul. But in that moment of recognition, the fear of abandonment hits like a tidal wave, a fear so intense, so consuming, that it drowns out the love they feel. They fear that if they express their love, they will come across as needy, desperate, or clingy. They fear that if they open up too much, they will overwhelm the runner and cause them to disappear. They fear that if they invest their heart fully, they will lose everything, just like they did before. For the chaser, the fear of abandonment is the fear that the one they love will disappear without warning, just like others have in the past. And so, they hold back. They suppress their feelings. They try to play it cool, not because they don't feel the connection, but because they fear that expressing their love will only push the runner away. Why the fear of rejection and abandonment blocks communication? The fear of rejection and abandonment creates a wall of silence, a wall that prevents open, honest communication. The runner doesn't speak because they fear that their truth will be rejected, criticized, or ridiculed. The chaser doesn't speak because they fear that their love will be too intense, too overwhelming, too much. And so, both twins remain trapped in silence, each longing to connect, but both paralyzed by the fear of being seen, of being vulnerable, of being hurt. But beneath that silence, the inner child is still crying out, still longing to be loved, still yearning to be held, still aching to be seen. Thank you for being here, for opening your heart, for listening with your soul. Until next time, stay rooted in your truth, stay anchored in love, and remember, even in the silence, the soul is still speaking.